Hey everybody, good morning. I am interviewing Zane today. He is a super fit carnivore over 50, and I think it's really exciting that we hear his story. So here we go. Zane, let me just add him. Zane Griggs. Zane, you're here. I sent you the invite, so just accept. Let me remove my VPN before hey, let me just disable my VPN in a split second.
Sure, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
how are you?
Just glad when it works, you know. It's like I'm just glad when it
What?
I'm just glad when it connects properly. I'm just happy when it's like
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Trust me, I've had my issues, and I always blame my VPN. It seems like every time I disconnect it, then it works again. But then sometimes it's not that. So I really don't know at this point. How are you? I'm so excited to meet you, for you to share your story with us, and to talk about all of the things: animal-based dieting, longevity, fitness over 50. So thank you for accepting my invite. Can you start by sharing a little bit your background with us?
sure. And thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you for inviting me on. I always appreciate the opportunity. I have been a trainer for 25 years, working mostly with people one-on-one, or lately, the last few years, remotely, of course, as well. But just found early on that the, the the guidelines, all the recommendations that we were told to use to help our clients just didn't work, especially if they really need to lose weight. And if they were over a certain age, oh my gosh, forget it. They just had almost no impact at all. Very frustrating for my clients, very frustrating for me. And so that made me start digging in a little deeper. And we're talking about the late 90s here. So there was not like the internet. You couldn't just go to the internet, start, blogs weren't even really just a thing. They were just becoming a thing. So it's really trial and error, try to read books, um, and figure it out and see what worked. And that's when, really it was after my wife's third child that she wanted to try Atkins. And it was like, okay, sure, okay, why not? I mean, let's give it a shot, because it just weight wasn't quite moving like it had before. And it was like started falling off of her. Just cutting carbs, primarily meat, a little bit of fruit here and there, and it just started falling off. And this was probably 2002. So uh, all my colleagues are like, oh, it's a fad diet. Oh, it's dangerous. You absolutely need carbs, all this kind of stuff. And thought I was nuts when I was like, hey, this is working. Have you guys tried this? This is amazing. And uh, and it just spun from there. I just really had to learn to not listen to my peers, essentially not listen to the guidelines, and to really look at what works, and go through trial and error. And that kind of led me in 2010 to start playing with intermittent fasting. So I did a lot of intermittent fasting over years with that, and then fell into really a better understanding of what we call animal-based diet or carnivore, over the last 4 or 5 years, realizing just how much nutrient density there is in animal foods. Always believing, like we were taught, that our nutrients, our micronutrients, like minerals and vitamins, always had to come from plants, right? Exclusively. And really realizing just how much nutrient density and bioavailability is available in animal foods. And of course, I already knew saturated fat. I've been eating 3 or 4 eggs a day for 20 years at this point. I have 50 years old. I have zero plaque. Okay, my CAC score is zero. Okay, fasting
Wow.
insulin is like usually bounces between 2 and 3. So obviously, saturated fat does not cause diabetes or obesity, because I constantly eat. So really through a bit of trial and error, and thankfully for the internet, getting to connect with people like you and Dr. Ken Berry, and just seeing the results that people can share, and really as a community, really coming to the community to share, and just letting that kind of challenge my old thoughts, challenge the way I approach things, and continue to learn. And so, I mean, then you bring in, Catherine Shanahan, with Dr. Catherine Shanahan with the seed oils in 2017 with her book, Deep Nutrition. Boom, really opens up a new thought line of, oh, these oils are bad. So it's just letting yourself progress and learn, not getting too romantic with your your ideology or your thesis so much that you can't listen to your body or understand what's going on with your clients, and be open to new information that might challenge the way you've been doing things.
Right.
I know it's
Right.
kind
I
of
love it.
long-winded, but I mean, that's
No,
basically me in a
perfect.
nutshell. So it's been 25 years. So
Right, right. Takes a little longer. I love it. I am so excited to see more and more people finally get to that conclusion, you know, and I feel like now with also social media, somebody like you who has had a very long period of time doing this can now share your experience and tell everybody that you have a CAC score of 0, you have no plaque, even though you're eating all the saturated fat, all of the egg yolks, all the cholesterol, right? You know, this stuff is really important. And as much as the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and all of the food companies that they work hand in hand with and invest in, as much as they would hate for us to share this information, you can't stop this anymore. Social media has given us the power back, and I'm just ecstatic every single day I meet somebody new because of social media who has figured it out and is sharing their story. So thank you for sharing that with us.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm happy to. I feel the same pain, because it's like you have to almost help people unlearn what they've been told for years,
Yeah.
for as long as I've been alive, with all of this anti-saturated fat, anti-animal fat, now anti-animal meat, you know, anti-meat narrative, finding all the reasons they can to tell us the meat's bad in some way. It's just a horrible thing for us to do, is to eat meat. It's almost immoral at this point. It's being tracked at this point. It's being eliminated from schools at this point. And with government overreach, and there's no, they've gone from making recommendations to mandates with what we choose to eat, and it's flat wrong. It's just like there's just no science to back it up. And and I admire the fact that you have trudged through to get a PhD in nutrition, and through what you had to go through, what you had to listen and bite your tongue to get to this point, because it's so great to see someone with your perspective who is now teaching at our academic, you know, at a college level, with a PhD. So, because I mean, I've been called a quack for so long, and it's those, having those credentials, teaching the people coming through who are trying to learn, who are trying to really understand the truth at this point in their life, and be able to allow those conversations to even happen in a classroom.
Right. Right. Well, I do it under the radar. I have no idea how they let me, you know, it's just I'm left to my own devices. The thing is, if there was somebody who's on top of me, who's checking my syllabus, I mean, the syllabus has like the basics, but, you know, I have them watch the recorded lectures over the weekend, and then it's all Q&A, all discussion when I meet them, you know, because I would have quit years ago if I had to repeat the same lecture over and over again. It's like, kill me now. So the only reason I keep this side job right now is because of that, because I get to discuss and talk about Carnivore, and, you know, they have all these questions and I share with them all the new stuff. So that's a little exciting, but even with that, I still need to quit real soon. I mean, they don't pay you much as an adjunct faculty, you know, and what I do, I learn so much every day, like the sheer amount of experience that I've had, the knowledge, what I bring to the table. It's like, not only is it like I'm teaching for free at this point, it's actually costing me money, you know? So, but you know, yeah.
I mean, you're doing good. You're opening conversations, you're opening minds at a level where it's just been, I mean, when we get nutritionists coming out and people dealing with diabetics who are literally feeding people to sustain their insulin prescription. Like, let's give you more insulin. Oh, it's too much. Oh, let's eat more.
Right.
Oh, let's just continue the cycle down the road in the wrong direction.
Just blows my mind.
And that can't continue. It's continuing the problem. Obviously, as you know, with your role on reversed, I mean, which is awesome. It's criminal. It's criminal. Yeah. And so really trying to unpack that with a client or with someone who's really just trying to get well is really hard to go dead on against their doctors and nutritionists that they've been assigned, and it's a challenge.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you for saying the C word. That's what I've been saying too. It is criminal at this point, right? When the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics turns a blind eye to the studies showing that the sweet taste, not just sugar, but even artificial sweeteners are far more addictive than heroin, not just cocaine. The cocaine studies are old at this point.
Yeah.
It's far more addictive than heroin. How is it that the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics still works hand in hand and invests in the processed food companies and then invites them over? If you go to an Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics annual conference, it's like a showcase for the candy manufacturers, Coca-Cola, sugar, sugar everywhere. Not only that, they actually have them come up and present at the conferences. to give the continuing education credits to the registered dietitians. If that is not criminal, then what is? You know?
Wow.
Anyway,
Continuing education made
what?
by Nabisco, basically.
Exactly. The reason why they have any platform at all, the reason why they have any kind of influence at all over the laws to license the dietetics field is because they accept all this money from those drug dealers that are using sugar to make massive profits, because they're literally drug dealers that aren't being regulated. So yeah, it's very easy to make a ton of money that way, right? So they take all that money, they accept all that money, and now all of a sudden they can contribute and influence our politicians so that they get elected, and then they pass laws so that the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has the monopoly over licensing for the dietitian.
Right.
Who are the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics? Where, give me their track record of success. Right. Give me one person they've actually helped. Because let me tell you, all the clients that I've worked with, my own personal experience, just let's survey all Americans. Everybody's overweight, everybody's obese. Where is their track record of success? Why do they get to license the practice of dietetics, you know? Anyway, let me not go off on a rant here. I'll keep this for my students tomorrow morning.
I'm right with you. I do it all the time. When someone uncorks me, it just starts coming out.
So let me bring back the focus on you. I really want to know about your diet, your exercise routine, your mindset, all the good stuff. So I really want to focus also on the mindset. I don't know, maybe let's start with the diet first, and then we'll move on to the mindset. Okay. So like your diet and exercise.
Well, I just saw someone ask on the comments here, Zane, are you a carnivore? And I'm going to, as far as pure so what people's understanding of carnivore, I know with carnivores, you guys know what that means. Some people think that just means you eat a lot of meat. Carnivore is like, for carnivores, you eat nothing but meat or animal products, meat, eggs, some variation of that, you know, not much else, nothing else. And that is not my diet. I have done that. I have days like that. I've done weeks like that, but it's not my long-term diet, although I embrace it as a great tool for a number of reversing disease, and not just metabolic disease, but other, like PCOS, those kind of, you know, autoimmune. It's a great tool. And I admire the people that are able that can work on that diet purely. I think overall, I think if we're in the right perspective, under like a bell curve, we all fit within like 2 degrees of standard deviation, right? From the mean, from the middle, right? And some of us can work really well here, some of us work really well over here. There's some room for wiggle. So I would never try to endorse one single diet, but if there is a so there's some basics, there's some foundations that we cannot do without. And that, first of all, like we've just talked about, the processed food, no processed food is an ideal part of your diet. It is never a healthy portion of your diet. It is not, I don't care how many nutrients they add to it, how the box looks, how many keywords they have on the, like whether it's keto or heart healthy or anything else they add to the box, bag, or bottle. That's not a food that needs to be a primary part of your diet. So I'm all about whole food with a basis on animal protein and fat. That's your primary source of fat, should be animal fats, in my opinion, and animal protein. And within that, there's going to be sorts of micronutrients that are much more bioavailable than they are from the majority of vegetables, for sure. And so there's nothing else, there's something missing there. It's just that some people do well with a little more, in my opinion, or they're more, let me put it this way, they're more easily sustained. They're a pure whole food diet if they have a little bit of, whether it's fruit, or they're tolerant of sweet potato or potato, or some sort of plant starch to add in maybe some magnesium or potassium if they need a little more of that. But by and large, mine is what we call animal-based. It's meat, I mean fruit, sometimes some sweet potato. It just depends on my activity level. I just find I sleep better with a little more carb. I recover better, and I think that has changed where I need a little bit more of that as I've gotten older. So we talk about age. I started intermittent fasting early in my 40s, and I found that I can't hit that stressor quite as hard as I could in my early 40s as I anymore now that I'm in my 50s. I'm 52, and that starts to disrupt my sleep. So I have to manage stressors. All tools like these are stressors, create stress, just like exercise creates stress. But your job creates stress, and your family can create stress. Your diet creates stress to when you're trying to lose weight. So you have to manage all of those in such a way that doesn't disrupt your sleep, or allows you to sustain it without crashing your thyroid, or without dropping your testosterone levels, or whatever it is that you're monitoring to see where your body is reacting to stress. And so I found over the last few years, I've had to back off in intense workouts a little bit, not as many fasted workouts, not as much intermittent fasting, a little more fruit and carbs seems to help me. But the basis is still, I mean, I have entire meals that are just meat, right? And then I might have some meat or fruit at another meal. So it's not by no means a high carb diet at all. But I do include those whole food carbs, focusing on whole food. And so that's generally my diet, which can vary a bit there depending on my activity level, how I'm sleeping, how I'm feeling that day. But again, I don't have a downside. I'm not trying to reverse disease. I'm just trying to manage my age.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, for example, the clients of mine that I put them on a lion diet where it's just beef, it's like they have a very strong reason. I actually just had my first carnivore pregnancy success story. Wow. I know. It happened 2 days ago. I got the email that she is 6 weeks pregnant. She came to me a few months ago. She's in Canada. You know how in Canada you have like free healthcare. So she saw all the doctors, but of course they're not very, they're not very, I guess, they're not the best, they're just giving you the IVF rounds, the basics. And so after 6-7 years of trying to have another kid, because she already had a 6 or 7-year-old daughter, she just wanted to grow her family. And she's approaching the 40s, and she's like running out of time. And for the past 6-7 years, spent thousands and thousands of dollars. I've seen all the doctors, all the IVF rounds, can't get pregnant. She works with me literally just for 1 month. She just purchased 1 month package, and we did a lion diet. And after she, she didn't renew the package, but she stayed on it. She just did beef, beef, salt water, and exercise because she was overweight. And I explained to her the role of extra fat cells. It's not just that they're sitting there not doing anything. They're actually actively pumping out inflammatory molecules. So you got to lose the weight to drop the inflammation. So we're doing all that, losing weight, lion diet, exercise. And I get an email 2 days ago letting me know that she is 6 weeks pregnant. She just wanted me. And I mean, awesome. Right? And so when you have a strong enough reason like that, like, yeah, you can do just beef because it's a very strong motivator. But if you don't have a goal like that, or you don't have, arthritis or something severe, it's kind of hard to justify not keeping those little whole foods things here and there. I'm wondering, do you do cheat meals?
I mean, not on a regular basis. So in other words, if I'm traveling with my family and there's something I want to try, I'll eat it. But that doesn't happen very often. Week in, week out, when I'm just working, going, no.
And have you struggled? I'm assuming you haven't struggled with sugar addiction in the past, because I know that clients of mine and me personally struggling with sugar addiction so much, it's terrifying to me to dabble. Doesn't mean I don't slip up, but I don't intentionally schedule. You know how some people will schedule, I have a cheat meal every weekend. For me, I don't do that.
No, but I don't feel particularly there's been foods in my life where I had gotten a habit of using those for like, it's like the end of the day stress reduction, right? You know what I mean? Those things that just kind of come in there and you kind of like, I'm just going to have some of this because I'm dealing with the stuff that I don't want to deal with. And it hits the dopamine and I feel better. But I don't really have much of that. I have the things that I indulge with are still kind of whole food or things that if they aren't, they're very limited in amount. But I mean, I stopped drinking a year ago because I was down to like maybe once every few months, and I'm like, this isn't serving me. I have things I want to accomplish this next year. If anything, it's going to disturb my sleep, which is my big Achilles heel, I would say, at the moment, just managing that with stress and everything that's going on. And I don't need anything holding me back. So I stopped drinking. And I noticed once I stopped drinking all together, like I might take a sip. I'm not scared of it. Like if my wife has something I want to taste, I'll taste it. But I haven't had a drink in my hand. I haven't poured myself a drink in over a year. And I don't, it doesn't call to me. Like I don't miss it. And so right now there's nothing that I feel like I've got to have. I don't need to schedule. I don't need to feel like I need an indulgence on a regular basis. I've got to know that it's serving me for the better, or it's not attractive to me at this point. And, and I know that if I am, let's say, visiting one of my kids at college, or we're doing something like that, and there's something there, it's just like, I'll have a little bit of it, but I'm not going to spiral. I'm not going to keep eating it. I'm probably going to feel like my stomach exploded the next day. So it's really going to be a good deterrent. And it's not, it's a drop in the bucket compared to all the good things that I'm eating and how my regular habits are. It doesn't allure me. You know what I mean? It doesn't. And by no means do I schedule something like that. As far as, on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, I've got to have some sort of indulgence to keep myself happy.
Yeah. That's great. You've got intact dopamine receptors and dopamine functioning in your brain. That's the goal. Right. Before I ask you about the exercise, I want to answer this question that we got.
Sure.
Let's see. Where is the question? Here it is. So Mojo3335 asks us, how does one gauge adequate fat intake on animal-based? I track. Do you track?
I track my protein. I don't really track my fat.
Right.
Because to me, that's kind of how my level of satiety would be, like if I wanted more fat, but I eat pretty fatty meat. And so I do pretty well with, for the most part, if I'm eating fatty meat, the fat that associates my protein, is I'm tracking my protein. If I'm getting the protein amount that I want, then the fat coming along with that is usually pretty adequate for me. I will guarantee you there's times when I get attracted to a little bit of butter. But we're talking about a small amount. I'm not sitting here, eating a steak because I got to have to hit a fat number. It's like more of a satiety thing. Like, okay, I'm going to take this to get me from A to B and have my brain functioning better for the next several hours or something like that. But no, I don't track that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think eventually you reach a point once you've achieved your ideal body weight where if you just focus on eating ribeyes or ground beef, I prefer the 80% lean ground beef, those cuts. You're naturally going to get 70 to 80% of your calories from fat and the rest from protein if you're doing like a strict carnivore. So for my clients, because they come from, most of them with a severe sugar addiction, carbohydrate addiction background, the way to assess all these things are all like, we can't listen to our natural physiological stimuli, right? So we massively underestimate the amount of calories found in the food that we eat. A lot of my clients, actually, what they do is they start with what most carnivores like to start with: eat all the meat that you want, eat all the butter, all that stuff. Don't track, you're gonna lose weight. And if you have like hundreds of pounds to lose, you're gonna lose weight, of course, right? But my clients are generally people who just want to perfect their physique a little bit. They have maybe like 50 pounds or maybe, like around that area. So at that point, what they've done is they've done the all you can eat, and then they gain weight, and now we have to actually go back to the basics, and I have to explain, like, I'm not the person who's telling you don't count, don't, you know, it doesn't matter, just eat meat, you know, and you're gonna lose weight, because I know that that's not wrong, that's not right, because one stick of butter has 800
Right.
calories, right? So if you're eating all the beef and all the butter, I mean, it's very easy, the calories rack up. Not only are you not gonna lose weight, you're actually gonna gain weight, you know, and that's gonna mess up with your head. So I do put them on MyFitnessPal, and we do, they add me as a friend, so I can actually go in and look at every single day what they ate. And it's amazing how little minor tweaks here and there can make the difference between staying at the same weight or dropping weight consistently. It doesn't take much to get you out of that caloric deficit, you know?
True. True.
Yeah.
I usually will tell people who are trying to lose, if they focus on the protein, let's not do any added fat. So if they're asking about cheese or they're asking about other things, extra, but I'm like, let's just stick to what comes along with your food. And I actually have them send me like text pictures of their plate to me. So that way that's an easy way for them to like take a picture, send it to me, and I can kind of eyeball it. And because I want them to learn to eyeball it. And then one good way to do that is just limit the extra fat, the dairy, the butter, the things like that, and stick to the meat and what comes with that meat, and see if that works, and see if that's enough to just curb the garnished fat, and stick to what's naturally occurring within their protein. And many times that's enough to keep the scale moving.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously you've got your system that's working. That's really, I think what the key is. It's not so much there's one system, but it has to be managed. I think that's the key. It has to be managed in some way, and then you make adjustments until things start working. But if you're not managing it, if you're just doing, hey, it's all good, it's all fair, then it's someone with it who has had trouble with weight or with insulin resistance or with just an eating, I don't say eating disorder, it sounds harsh, but just someone who ate for pleasure or ate out of addiction. They can still overdo it, even though it's good food. And they might just need some management, as you said.
Exactly. This is why coach having one is so crucial. It's not so much about, you know, you might not know what you need to do, because I even have a coach, and I know all this stuff. I'm a nutrition professor. I'm a coach myself, but I even hire a coach just to keep me focused at least 1 hour out of the week, where I renew my commitment to my health and to my fitness, and I get a chance to talk to somebody, because they're going to ask you, well, what happened on that day? And maybe if I didn't schedule in that hour with my coach, I never would have stopped that week to think about what happened on that day. Why did I not work out, or why did I add extra cheese, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It's really more about kind of recommitting to the priorities in your life, and also activating those mirror neurons, you know, being around, being your coach. When you're around them, right, you belong to a group, you belong to a tribe now that's fit, and you want to make sure you stay in that tribe. You know, you don't want to be left behind. So there are a lot of reasons that are far more psychological than it is about knowing exactly how many calories I need to be eating, or how many, you know, grams of carbs, proteins, fats, things like that, you know?
I felt that I went down to, and I mean, my diet, I'm not fine tuning my diet too much anymore. It is, I feel I'm more concerned with the results of, like, for instance, sleep, performance, recovery at this point in my life. But I went to a couple of Paul Saladino's retreats in Costa Rica, and it was just a group of, I mean, it's a mix of carnivore, some animal-based, and some people who were just starting out. But I found the benefit to being, the greatest benefit was the community. It was just being around a lot of people who all had the same goals and desire to figure out their diet, their body, and to improve. And we were all shooting questions at each other and talking, especially as older guys, about what we do for sleep, about how we're managing certain things. But it was a community that motivated me. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you should do this and I should do that. It was like, I came out of that with an innate desire to level up. Like, how, after being around these people, what money am I leaving on the table? Because out of laziness, or just wanting to not address it, or just being in a bit of a rut of doing the same thing, which is comfortable. And I'm doing okay. I don't have any glaring problems. But where could I improve? And it came from being around other people who all had that same mindset in that community, even though it was just a long weekend, a couple long weekends, you know, it was enough to make me take a look at what habits I hadn't or could improve and maybe hadn't addressed, where there was some more benefit for me in other areas that, you know, it really, I think that community is much more important than we give it credit for. It certainly was more important than I give credit. I didn't realize I needed it. I didn't realize how much I had missed it. And it's so important to have that, like you said, that tribe and those people around you who understand what you're talking about, why you want to do this, why you want to improve. Because when we go out in the world, we get around our peers, even our family, they look at us sometimes like we're weird, like we're crazy. Like, why do you want to do more? Why is this, isn't this extreme enough? Or isn't this too extreme? Or why do you care so much about why you look, as if it's all about how you look in a bikini rather than,
because
I don't know, how about my
it's a direct reflection of your health. The hotter you look generally, the healthier and happier you are, and the longer you're gonna live. That's why.
Generally speaking, yeah, it is a good reflection. And they act like it's vanity. It's like, no, I don't, because I'm not just looking at myself in the mirror. I'm looking at my blood work. I'm assessing my sleep with my Oura ring. I know how when I feel better, when I'm run down. And I'm not interested in having the same level of performance or appearance as my peers, as the other guys who are 52 years old. That doesn't have interest to me. So, and not to create, but it's not because I'm better. I just choose better. I want to have better for me, because I have a lot of things to do in the next 20 or 30 years that I want to be healthy and fit for, and be around for my family and have, you know, just have fun, enjoy myself. But it's always been important to me. Longevity has always been, even since my 20s, has been my North Star. I was not a big jock. I was not a big sports guy. I was not, I was really thinking about longevity and avoiding disease with diet and with fitness in my 20s. I don't know why. I don't know why that happened.
I'm going to ask you why, because it's very rare in your 20s to have this focus. I understand as you get in your 30s and you're like, oh, wow, I still have so many things that I haven't even gotten close to accomplishing. So, you know, longevity is going to allow me to get to them. So, but in your 20s, that's very early.
Well, I had seen my uncles. I have uncles who all had heart disease, diabetes, some sort of, you know, something like that. And they passed away in my early 20s. And my dad, on the other hand, he didn't have the same dietary habits as them. He always used to get up at 5 and run, and he was always going to the gym and working out after work. And he took the recommendations he had that we were given in the 70s and 80s. Back then, it was very different, right? It was definitely low fat. It was definitely, but he had recommendations he followed. He had a plan. It wasn't the best plan, but it was a plan.
Right.
And he was very active and fit, and became important to him. I think that was a great role model to see the difference between him and his brothers and their health outcomes. And he's still, I mean, that was my 20s. My uncles died. My dad's 89. he's still alive. And so it's, I think, but it just, I don't know what it was, a little bug in my ear. Every time I met a trainer, I was asking him a bunch of questions. I was reading books. I was playing with different diets in my 20s, even did juice fasting back then. We're talking about the early 90s, week-long juice fasts. I even played with vegetarian diet for a few years, and just to see, hey, is this the best way to, in an effort to just, it was trial and error. We didn't have blogs. Again, we didn't have the internet then. We had to read and experiment. And so it was a lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error, learning the hard way, which is why I feel very confident in my approach now. Not so confident I've stopped learning, but you're going to have a hard time taking away my experience that I've had playing with diets and working on my fitness since I was 17 years old. And so you can't take away someone's experience. Once you help someone reverse diabetes or lose 100 pounds, and you're going to try to tell them, well, you did that wrong. Wait a minute. I was doing it the other way. That's what got me there. When your clients come off of insulin or lower their fasting insulin level or lose 60 or 80 or 100 pounds, good luck telling them they did it wrong.
Right. And this is what the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is doing, right? It's going after anybody who is actually getting results, the results that the Academy would never even dream of getting for any of their clients or their registered dietitians. So,
Exactly.
anyway, what is the single best thing you think you're doing, or collection of things that are the best that you think you're doing for longevity? And I know that exercise is a big component. I still want to know your exercise routine. I think it's like probably the single most powerful maybe tool that at our disposal, that and diet. Is there anything in addition to that?
I am really trying to focus on my sleep right now. So I monitor my sleep and adjusting. And I realized, you know, it's like, well, we're asleep, we're unconscious. How do we manage sleep? Well, sleep is very much affected by what we do during the day. And we don't always realize that, or it's our daily habits that affect our sleep. And so I've had to dig a little deeper there. It really wasn't an issue for me until maybe coming in my late 40s, but especially now in my 50s, where, and I think I was, again, hammering the stressors a little too much, a little too hard. For 12 years of intermittent fasting and fasting workouts had an effect on my cortisol levels and had an effect on maybe my circadian rhythm. And so now, I mean, in full disclosure, still learning, still trying to work on me, because you, just to clue you in, your body doesn't stop once you figure things out. Once you age, there's new things to figure out. There's new issues, there's new hurdles, and what worked for you 10 years ago may not work for you the same way now, you know. And so so getting enough sunlight in throughout the day, but especially early, maybe eating a little earlier and finish eating earlier, finish my heavier meals earlier, like dinner earlier, blue light blockers, deep nasal breathing, trying to engage, you know, diaphragmatic breathing, really to engage my parasympathetic nervous system, especially in the evening and before bed. Things that tell my nervous system it's time to calm down, it's time to relax, it's nighttime, it's supposed to be resting. And so that shifts, so I'm not getting those. And so many guys, I mean, so many of my clients are between the ages of 45 and 65, and they're business owners, or they're big in corporate, and they have high stress jobs. And sleep is like that thing that it really eludes them. It's like a lot of them really have trouble sleeping, and it's definitely a stress management. And it really, you're not going to take away their job. They love working. They're getting fit so they can keep working. That's their mindset. They want to keep closing deals. That's why they come to me. They want to be in shape so they keep closing deals for the next 20 years. And so I can't say, oh, just less time working and your job is doing this to you. Okay, but they're not going to give that up. But they might adjust. They might take time out to breathe better. They might adjust when they start eating or when they work out to help facilitate a more, like, allow them to land the plane, so to speak, of their brain before they go to bed in the evening, and start adjusting their habits a bit to get a decent night's sleep so they can perform well the next day. So you have to learn what their why is, I think, and what people's why, what's their reason behind it. And that's really a bigger motivator. Like, you and I are geeks, we're total nerds, and we're going to do something because it's better, because we know the science, or because someone said this will help you with this, and we're like all about the mechanism because we want to play with that and experiment. That doesn't drive them. Their performance drives them. What's their why, you know? And so but I'm the guinea pig, and I've got to get in there and really work it out for longevity. I think we've tackled, we know, you and I at least, and a few of our peers, know ideal diet for the most part that would get you 90% of the way there. We know some regular exercise will get you there, but sleep has been so neglected for decades. Sure. In the 80s, it was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. We had leaders talking about how they got 4 or 5 hours of sleep and then just kept going and charging through. And it's probably one of the worst things you can do is neglect or abuse your sleep schedule for longevity. There's no biohack that's going to reverse that. If you don't have those basics down, diet, exercise, and sleep, if you don't have those as your foundation that you respect on a consistent basis, don't bother with anything else, because it's not going to do it. You can't undo the damage you do from abusing your sleep schedule.
Well said. I love everything you just mentioned there. The basics, we vastly underestimate how powerful they are, you know? Before I ask you about specific exercise routine that you follow, I just want to answer this question real quick. Meow says, what are your thoughts on erythritol and the recent study that came out? Can't help but feel like it's BS. Not sure if y'all would know, but thought I would ask for keto lifestyle. So there is a study that came out recently showing, it was really actually by accident, that it turns out that the molecule that is elevated the most in those who have the highest chance of getting a heart attack was erythritol, the artificial sweetener. Because the researchers were just trying to figure out what could be associated with increased risk of heart disease. And they scanned for so many chemicals. They didn't know what they were going to find out. Turns out that what topped the list was erythritol. And I know a lot of people in the keto world were like, oh, it's just association. Epidemiology, we generally like to criticize that a lot. And I agree, it is the lowest quality type of evidence in any kind of field, especially nutrition. Having said that, I think my philosophy, my way of thinking about artificial sweeteners is that they all have been shown to have very deleterious effects. Stevia upsets your microbiome. It's been shown to destroy dopamine in your brain. Xylitol, or I think it was the xylitol, you put it in a glass with fruit flies, it kills them all within a couple of days. They're actually now trying to patent it as a natural insecticide that's safe to humans. You know? Actually, we share a lot of commonalities in terms of nervous system with insects, far more than you would think. You know, there's no real powdered sweetener that has not been shown to have some negative effect. And so for me, I see no reason to critically go after and dissect that study. I'm like, you know what? If it's really that elevated in heart disease patients, maybe it's best that we lay off the white stuff. At the end of the day, the vast majority of Americans and in the world are addicted to sweetness, right? And it's still a sweetener. So it's like, why would you want to keep it in your diet anyway? If you are a person who's not affected by sugar addiction or carbohydrate addiction, then and you want to have sweetness, then go with honey. But why would you want to go with erythritol? You know what I mean?
Exactly. I would say go with something with some nutrient density. If you want to get some berries, you know, or get some something that's not, it's going to, you get the sweet taste, but it's not an artificial or something that your body doesn't recognize. The reason those sweeteners don't elevate our blood sugars is because we don't know how to digest them. They pass on, and then they have all the gut problems, right? You eat enough of those things, you're not going to be real popular. You know, you're in a crowded room. So I mean, it's erythritol. And now one I heard some people say, oh, we have some natural elevated amounts of erythritol in our bodies that we produce with. But the thing is, an artificial sweetener is that it's artificial. It's part of a processed food. It's going to stimulate your taste buds. You're probably going to get a little insulin bump from just the taste of it, right? Because it clears blood sugar. But if you're a diabetic, you have some sort of insulin resistance, what would a metabolically healthy person might get a short temporary insulin bump. A metabolically sick or challenged person is going to have a little bit more of a reaction, just because your insulin's already, and your blood sugar is already high. You're playing with fire at that point, because your goal is to readjust your body's, how it treats sugar, right? And to change your system to handle the sugar appropriately. Putting an artificial sweetener in your body, it's a short-term feel good, but the long-term effect, it's not fitting your long-term goal of changing the way you think about sugar, of changing your habits, of changing your palate, which is really what needs to be adjusted. If we had a lot of highly palatable processed food, including sweetness, but just high palatable processed food anyway, whether it's Doritos or something like that, where you just get used to this super intense flavor that's been designed to create sort of an addictive behavior, where you can't just eat just one, right? And so we need to get back to where we're really satisfied with just natural foods.
Exactly.
you know, the natural flavor that's in foods, and we're sensitive to that. But if you're eating sugar and Doritos all the time, you taste a home cooked meal,
Yeah.
it tastes bland. Well, there's
Yeah.
a problem there. If you're not picking up the savory points of a ribeye or of, you know, the sweetness even of butter, you know,
Yeah.
those are things that we miss when we're just
So true.
hammering our taste buds with
I
processed food.
exactly. Funny thing, I've gotten to a point where I can sense the sweetness in water. Believe it or not. It tastes sweet to me now. And I was talking about this the other day with one of my clients, and she was telling me the exact same thing. She was doing a lion diet, so like nothing coming in, no fruits even. And it's true, you really can taste the sweetness in water at some eventually. I mean, it's great. Let's talk about your exercise routine. And do you count your steps? Do you have a goal for like step count?
I don't count steps. Uh, I get, I have a tendency, I can have a tendency to be a little obsessive, and which creates stress for me, and it doesn't make me relax. And so I try, believe it or not, I try to move away from I try to think in terms of bigger check boxes. Just like, okay, I did that. I checked the box. Because I tend to want to do more and push more and go over, and I ended up overtraining, to be honest. I ended up overtraining. And so steps, I mean, I get walks in. We try to do a couple 2-3 mile walks several times a week. But then I also get out and do sprints, and then I do some more mobility work. So let's just, with that, before I get down too many rabbit holes, what I noticed as I was getting in my later 40s, that a lot of the traditional heavy weight training I was doing, the deadlifts, the heavy squats, the bar squats, the presses, I was losing mobility, and I was getting some achiness in joints and starting to have some issues with like hip flexors and back, and it was getting some tightness and that I didn't like. I didn't like the way the direction was taking me, where I would feel like it was, you know, we end up walking like those old guys in the gym that walk like robots. You know what I mean? They just barely, they're like this. I am not. That's not going to be me. I'm not going that direction. And so got a little help, got some insight from like physical therapist, and talked to a few people, and just started getting other movements in that would activate certain muscles, and then realized, you know, I don't need to pound the iron like I did when I was 30 in order to get a good workout. And so it's really about fatigue. It comes out, how do I create fatigue in a safe way, in a range of motion that allows me to move well, continue moving well, and improves my mobility. So I started working a lot with loop bands. You know those big loop bands people use to assist their pull-ups?
Yeah.
The big ones, the long ones, they're like, you know, when they're a big loop, they're like, you know, 3.5 feet long, and they have different gauges. And so I'm using a lot more bands for resistance in order to allow myself to get deeper into a point of fatigue without having a bar on me or over me. So I can push up against that point of fatigue, even to a point of doing partial reps, where I'm like, I'm running out of steam in the full range of motion, but I'll continue in the weaker range, because you usually fatigue in your greatest point of leverage first. And so if you're, you know, at full range, I might do a few extra reps in the weaker range, which often gets neglected in the weaker point of the range when you have a dead weight. Whereas with a band, I have dynamic resistance. I have the safety of, like, if I want to dump the weight, I can go all the way to the end where I can't finish another rep if I want to, safely. I'll have to drop the band or get out of the band. And a lot of body weight movements, a lot more body weight, but like pistol squats. So I'm working on pistol squats for the full range of motion, less weight, but definitely challenging because of the range and the stability required. Full range on my pull-ups, letting myself complete hang, full extension of the shoulder, which is a lot harder than if you stop a little short and use momentum. And doing just mobility work like floor work, animal flow type stuff, animal movements, monkey crawls and froggers and crab walks, and things that make me move and have to turn and support my body over the ground and move in ways that I haven't moved since I was a kid. And that has been so beneficial for me to have a more diverse range of movement that I feel comfortable in. really open up hips and shoulders, and I'm still getting a great workout. And then I include
Absolutely.
sprints like once or twice a week, just to get that, make myself move fast, be explosive in a way that I don't have to necessarily be explosive with a bar, but if I can move my body quickly over a short distance, a few reps of that, it's amazing. Just with it hormonally, my legs look great. I have to say, I'm really happy with how look after doing sprints. Really happy with those. If I can say that, but it's just, you know, when I see a lot of the guys my age, they got no ass, they got skinny legs, they can't keep their muscle in the lower body.
Chicken legs, right?
Yeah, and then just the butt gets flat, right? Because they're sitting all the time, or they're not doing something. It's like, let's what are practical movements, and being able to move quickly over a short distance is very practical for me. Whereas jogging outside tends to hurt. I start feeling it in my joints, in my ankles, in my lower legs, my feet, when it's just pounding over distance. So if I'm going to do some zone 2, which I like, I'll get on a spin bike, or I might, in the summer, I might try to incorporate some swimming, where it's low impact. And like with a spin bike, I'll focus on my, again, nasal breathing, deep breathing, stay zone 2. It's low, you know, it's a low heart rate, so I can focus on just breathing through my nose, engaging the parasympathetic. While cruising on a spin bike, there's no impact. So it's way to electric cardiovascular training without the physical impact that might cause me to overtrain with the other things I have going on, and reduce that impact to my legs from hitting the road. So it's really more about again managing stress, but still manage to get enough to stimulate, mTOR and create, hold on to the muscle, maintain muscle, but also performance in a way that's a little different than I was thinking about before. It's not just the weight on the bar. It's like, how is my body moving? How is it feeling? You know,
right.
That kind of thing. So avoiding pain.
Yeah, that's a huge one. So, unfortunately, Instagram has this new thing where it literally kicks you out of an Instagram live after 1 hour. Yeah, I've just noticed that like a month ago. I was doing an Instagram live. We were planning to go an extra half an hour, and then I get this message telling me you've got 20 seconds left. I'm like, okay, bye-bye.
Well, I'm long-winded, so I apologize. I can be long-winded.
No, it's fine. Me too, actually. We have a lot we want to share, and that's a good thing, you know? We do have like 5 minutes left. So
I'll do
so I want to give you enough chance to tell everybody where they can find you. Also, what are your future goals? And also, what is the biggest advice you can give people, especially as it relates to mindset or just in general for success in life? So I know that's a lot, but I'm going to try and get the answers to all of these.
Mindset, I would say, you know, for me, especially at my age, I'm thinking, what do I want to accomplish over the next 20 years? Like my wife and I were like, we turned 50 and we were like, okay, what do we want the next 20 years to look like career-wise, and our lifestyle? And start with that, start with your why, and then think about what you have to do to accomplish that, what kind of health you need to be in to accomplish that, and let that be your driving force. You're not getting up to exercise, you're getting up to fulfill the dreams and desires you have for your life over the next decade or 20 years, whatever it is. You're doing this for you, you're doing this for your goals. You're not doing this because someone told you to do it or because you think it's the right thing to do. And that's what you need to just really use to motivate yourself, because that will get you out of bed a little earlier to do something. That will get you to the gym. That will make you make better decisions on your plate, or when turning off Netflix so you can go to bed on time. It's like, what's serving me now? What's serving my goals that I want to accomplish? And that's the mindset. We got to start with addressing what will really motivate you, and you got to find that and use that as your leverage point when you're trying to stay on your plan. You know, does that drink, or is that extra helping of something, or does that indulgence serve you in accomplishing those goals? And to me, that's as a goal-driven person, that's important. That makes me level up. What was the other question?
Yeah, so that's your advice for the mindset. What are your future goals, and where can people find you?
Okay. I'm really most active on Instagram, Zane Griggs Fitness. If you want to see my other stuff, it's zanegriggs.com. Has all links to everything. You might know I just finished a book with Ken Berry called Kicking Ass After 50. I just happen to have a copy right next to me, if I may. Right
Yes.
here, Kicking Ass After 50.
Nice.
It says Guide to Optimal Health for Men 50 and over, but diet, exercise, and sleep applies to everybody, male and female. So you can use. We have a chapter about testosterone, and then we speak. It's very direct talk. So that's why I say for men, it's very very direct, not sugar coated, not underhand pitching. It's very guy talk.
That's my favorite kind of people. Blunt, real talk. We're here for a specific amount of time on this planet, you know. Let's just go straight to the point.
Yeah.
Love it.
So it's available on Amazon now. I'm getting the ebook out soon. I've been working on getting the ebook. It's just a little harder than you think for some reason. And then we'll be doing an Audible eventually with both of us reading the book. So look for that. This will be fun because we're going to each take turns chapters, and a little banter, a little extra. But the paperback is on Amazon right now. So it's Kicking Ass After 50. And really, I really want to, as I found community was, as far as future goals, my community experience there in Costa Rica with Saladino's group was phenomenal. And so I would love my future goals. Once we're talking about the book, we're promoting the book. We've got we're Ken Berry and I and Meat Mafia guys and a couple of people are hosting an event here in Nashville on June 2nd to start off as talking about or promoting the book, but it's really we're going to have a couple panels of brands that are catering to animal-based and carnivore communities, as well as Ken Berry and myself on a panel where people can ask us questions. And so that event is going to be in Nashville on June 2nd. Look for it on social media. We'll start promoting it. And it's really to bring awareness to this community and to this way of eating and to because we're bringing in even investors, local investors, we're bringing in local influencers to see this and understand, create a community here around and start a community in Nashville around this way of eating and this way of thinking. And so that's really my goal, is to create community around this, both locally in Nashville, online as well, and connect people so that we have that support system, so we have that like-mindedness around us to help us keep moving forward, set our goals, challenge each other, and encourage each other to keep moving forward, because I think that's necessary to really be successful over the long term. Absolutely.
And to resist the bullying from the likes of those giant organizations, right? Like the Academy of Nutrition. I don't know why today I'm feeling like going after them.
I'm with you. Hey, we mentioned them in here. I mentioned those two studies that came out over the last year.
Yeah.
The DGAC and the Nutrition Academy being conflicts of interest. It's horrible.
DGAC, the Dietary Guidelines for Americans Committee, right? 95% of them, they did an analysis, they published the paper showing that 95% of those scientists that are that put the dietary guidelines for Americans every 5 years actually have very close relationships with the food companies. So it's a massive conflict of interest when your whole research career relies on money from those food companies. Do you really think you're going to go against them, or that you're going to be incentivized to open up your mind and be receptive to other ways of thinking?
Yeah. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we wrote this book. Let's set things straight. Understand you've been lied to. Here's what we've seen working over decades of our combined experience, Dr. Berry and I sharing our experience, and what your experience as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you I couldn't hear you for whatever reason. I think you're getting a call, right? Did you get a call? I can hear you now, I think.
I'm cutting this off. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I keep waiting. When are they gonna? I wonder if remove that limit. That I don't know what's going on. I was certain that they were gonna cut us off any second now, but I'm glad they haven't. Maybe we'll take advantage And let me ask you if we can have an extra minute or two, if the Instagram got. Oh no, here we go. 30 seconds remaining. All right. Well, thank you so much, Zane.
Thank you.
I'm going to repost this on my YouTube channel.
Awesome.
And everybody who's watching this, check in YouTube in the description box below. I'll put the links where you can connect with Zane and get his book. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you so much, Zane.